Alrighty, welcome everybody. It is April 18th, 2022, August 18th, 2022. This is the SIG Cluster Lifecycle Project, Kubernetes Cluster API Azure. We meet right now every 2 weeks here. We're part of the SIG Cluster Lifecycle umbrella project. So as such, we're trying to comply with their rules of conduct here, which basically boils down to try not to interrupt each other and try to use the raise hand feature so we don't stomp on each other. If you want more details, we've about how this is run, that's at the top of the document. But let's go ahead and get started. First of all, do we have anybody who's here for the first time or wants to unmute and introduce themselves? Like familiar faces, but you never know. Yeah, go ahead, Nikos.
Hello, I'm Nikos. I'm necessary at Elastic, and this is my first time here. I'm trying to understand what's going on and check, the internals.
Excellent. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay. If you want to, you can add your name to the list here, just so we have a record of who's attending. Sometimes people are later like, who was that person who was talking about X, Y? I want to get in touch with them. So that's kind of why we have an attendee list. All right, let's move on to open discussion. Mike, do you want to talk about is VNet managed fix and managed control planes?
Yeah, so okay, I see Cecile's here. Been talking with Cecile and Jack about fixing is VNet managed with managed control planes. Right now with managed control planes, you can bring your own VNet, but it always assumes that it is managed. So it tries to delete the subnet with that VNet. And we've gone through a couple different approaches on how to fix it. A couple of different in progress PRs, and I just wanted us to try to determine what approach we were deciding on for the actual solution. If we were going to go with the approach of not deleting the subnet resources and just rely on deleting the VNet and have it cascade delete the subnet resources, or if we were going to try to, do all the different conditionals for those sub resources. And just understand what the Jack's latest PR is going to be the one that we're going to go with, and just make sure I understand where we're going with that. All the potential solutions are okay with me and work. I just wanted to get some clarity.
I'll just speak up. I wish Jack was here because I think he would be the better person to answer this question. As far as I know, from what I've been following, but I've also been following the same way as you, trying to see what's happening. But I think the PR to never delete the subnet, that's not going to work for now. We identified that it was causing issues when deleting other resources like route tables. So I think that's out of the race right now. So now what we need is something that actually checks for the VNet management state. The one you had could have worked, it was very close, but then I think you changed it to use like the tags, and that approach doesn't work because the tags aren't set in the managed clusters. So we can't use that approach. So what we need is something that makes a call to the API to actually get the state of the VNet and then checks the tags on that. I think Jack's PR is really close. The only thing that him and I discussed in review is to remove the rate limiter implementation from that PR to make it as simple and lean as possible so we can merge it quickly. And if it needs to be reverted, it's easier to revert, and we can cherry pick it. That's the most important part. And then follow up with a separate PR that adds rate limiting across services, not just for this one particular case. The one thing that we were still going back and forth on is whether we should do the cache or not. I felt the cache was a low-hanging fruit and pretty simple improvement. But I'm also okay if we think that we should just really keep it really simple and not even bother about saving the state of the VNet management. So I think, I'm also fine with, either your PR or Jack's PR, whichever one gets there first and is like an emergeable state. And I think at this point, you should both add each other as co-authors because there's been so much back and forth. But we just need something really simple that checks the VNet or gets the VNet and then uses that. And if we want, we can do the caching, but it's not blocking for me.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Sorry, I was muted earlier.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, my only, I think the quick caching is going to be a little bit important, at least from my perspective, just because I do know we hit rate limits fairly frequently due to like the autoscaler. I actually don't know within an AKS world if that's going to be as common as some of the rate limiting we're hitting in a non-AKS world. So I am slightly concerned about in the reconciler how frequently that runs, making the API calls. So that, and considering that it rarely changes, I think having that as a cache is a more optimal solution. But with the port 29 checks, I agree that that should be a separate PR. I'd rather go with Jack's PR just because he would know better how to do the mocking than I would. That was one of the big blockers that I hit into, is how to mock out the service in service of a different service. In it, I could mock out the scope okay, but I just didn't have enough experience with doing the mocking to track down that far. And that's really where I got blocked with that other PR and why I switched it to try to use the tags. And then of course, where you said I took the wrong approach from there.
Cool, go ahead, Cecile.
Yeah, so how about this? How about we close the other two PRs, like Jack's other attempt and your PR, just to have clarity around which PR we're working towards. And then if you could please comment what you just said about like preferring caching and being good with not including the rate limiter on that PR so that we can move forward with it, because we were kind of going back and forth. I think in the end, we both agreed, let's do caching, but not rate limiting, but that way we can have your +1 as well. And then we can try to get that ready to merge and merged, and then possibly cherry picked.
That sound like a plan, Mike?
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else have any comments on this topic? Right on. Next topic we actually brought up last time, and I kind of twiddled my thumb, so we're doing it again. But we're interested in seeing if people have the appetite for doing this meeting every week and maybe moving in an hour later. We tried this a long time ago by floating a doodle to vote on, and people voted for this time again. But overall, we see that most of the attendees are on West Coast of the US, so it seems like we might try again. But what do people think about that? Zane, you raised your hand. Was that something else? Or
yeah, it was about the previous topic. I just wanted to ask.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
If I can ask, yeah. So there is a question there, like how to keep deleting from an existing VNet in these cases. Like, is there more details on some PR about that, or can I read? Because we are creating VNet outside of the cluster API and CAPC, and our VNets do not get deleted. And this was like explicit check that I did. So I would be interested in knowing like what case we are talking. Okay.
Yeah, Cecile.
Yeah, oh, actually, Mike, do you want to go for it? I see you have your hand raised. I'll find the link.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was just about to find the PR. We ran into a situation where it was with bring your own VNet, specifically just with AKS. So if you're not using AKS, everything worked just as it should. When you bring your own VNet, you can create a cluster and it launches it properly inside of that VNet. But what happens is, if you delete the cluster inside the bring your own VNet, it will attempt to delete the subnet that's inside that bring your own VNet. And in our case, we had other resources inside that subnet, so it wouldn't delete that, but it got stuck in a loop trying to delete the subnet because there was resources in there that it wasn't able to delete because it just wasn't aware of them. So what this approach is trying to do, what we're trying to do is just basically say, hey, if it's a bring your own VNet, it shouldn't try to delete the subnet because it basically always thought that it was a managed VNet.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, if I can speak. So I think we are using AKS with VNet, and definitely it's not happening for our case. So probably the only thing different is like we do limit AKS cluster to its own subnet, and we are okay with subnet to be getting deleted, right? So, but the VNet is definitely shared between multiple clusters, and we have been doing it periodically, like creating and deleting AKS clusters using cluster API. So unless it's something new issue or something like that, it at least was not happening because we tested that scenario multiple times. So subnet do get deleted, that's attached to the AKS cluster, but VNet we provide it already created through some other resources like Terraform, and that is like should exist outside AKS clusters.
Yeah, so it was with deleting the subnets that we had a problem with.
Okay, so this issue is about deleting the subnets and not VNet, right? So that's what, okay.
I believe.
Yeah, Cecile.
Yeah, actually, I just want to use this moment to make an introduction. Mike, if you haven't met Zane before, Zane has actually been doing a lot of the AKS, testing and breaking and investigating and helping us fix stuff. So, he'd be a great resource to know and person to talk to if you have questions through your own journey. And Zane, Mike is actually from Adobe and is testing out using CabZ to run AKS clusters right now, building a prototype. So he'll be around. Just wanted everyone to know each other.
Great, nice to meet you.
Great, thanks, Susan.
Cool. Anything else about VNets? Subnets? I guess not. So then it has been proposed that we try to do this meeting every week and maybe change the time. People have opinions about that. Should we just try and do it and see if people freak out, or should we could do another poll through the Slack channel, but last time it didn't really provide any different information. I guess what we'd like to do is to try to do this every week at 9 o'clock Pacific time rather than 8 o'clock. Is that going to be a problem for people on this call right now? Cecile.
I think generally I'm +1 on every week. I think we did every 2 weeks at the very beginning when the project was very nascent and it didn't really make sense because we didn't have much to talk about every week. But I think at this point we're getting enough regular attendance from users and people who come with questions that it's worth, even we don't have to fill the whole meeting with an agenda, even just like the maintainers and reviewers being here to answer questions and having people just being able to jump in and come with questions that they would normally ask in Slack. I think there's value in that. We could try that out and see if it is, if we do get the same attendance or if attendance drops. About the time, I think we should definitely do an async survey for that. And because the people who can't make this time aren't in here. so they can't voice their opinion right now. And I don't know about, like, everyone's schedule is going to be different. It's really, really hard to find a time that works for every single person across every single time zone. So we could try to do like the most popular time maybe, and then possibly we could do 2 different times, like every other week we keep this time and then we add an optional meeting that's more friendly Pacific time. I don't know if that would be an option.
Definitely an option. I mean, I like the simplicity of just having it every week at the same time. You know, I put those little reminder things in Slack just because I think, like a lot of people, since it's every 2 weeks, I don't know if it's happening this week or not. So, but if it happened every week, then I think we all fall into a pattern, ideally at the same time, but we could do that separately. So I'm in agreement with what you said. Does anybody else have any opinions? Should we just try and declare that we do this every week now? And then I can go do a doodle to see if we want to change the time. Mike, you can't do every week, but could do every other week. Okay. I mean, we also record all these, so if people really need to catch up, you can go watch the recording. Well, I'm not hearing anybody responding negatively, so let's consider that a soft consensus, and we'll try and just do this next week and every week from now on, and then I'll go ahead and do a poll and see if we want to change the time for one or both meetings, or one every other meeting, something like that. Sound good? All right. Next, I want to review the milestone and release prep. We have release prep to do. What's that?
Yeah, well, so the release for the next minor release for the date we are targeting is coming up in about 3 weeks. So I thought it'd be good to go over the milestone and just kind of see if anything's in the way, anything is blocking, and if anyone needs help with anything.
Let's do it. Flat car. Seemed like we were pretty close. I don't think Mateus is here, so I'm not sure if we have any updates on this.
I haven't seen any movement on that PR for a while, so maybe worth pinging or tagging Mateus and asking if this is still active, or if we should move it out of the milestone.
Okay. Outer tree, controller manager, and storage drivers. Jonathan, do you know about this one, or seems like it's just been?
Yeah, so that one's something we're trying to implement using the add-on controller that I'm working on.
Oh, right. Do you think it's likely to land in the next week or two, or should we move it to a different milestone? Or
I mean, it's probably usable, but I wouldn't guarantee that it's tested by then. Like, we can definitely try it out if we want to, you know, see how it works and try out the flow. But yeah, probably next milestone.
Okay. Let's just, what is it, just next? Is that what we called it? All right. Async tags. This is still in progress. Needs to be rebased. Where is this at, Jonathan? Just need some time to give it some
Also
feel.
tags isn't really a service we can make async. That's sort of what I discovered working on that.
Oh,
And I guess I sort of experimented with some changes, so we'll have to see if we want to close the PR or if we want to move forward with the refactor anyway.
So it sounds like based on that, it's probably not going to land in the next week or two, since there's still some open questions. Would you agree?
Yeah.
All right, let's just acknowledge reality.
That's the PR, Matt. I think is it pointing to the issue or the PR?
Oh, you're right.
Milestone. Yeah.
Thank you. Whoa. Oh, reload. Document new release cadence. This is on me, and I will do this probably not today or tomorrow, but by next week. Configurable network interfaces. I have an open PR. I actually don't know what's going on with this one. Sorry, let me just jump to the end here. So this is still in review. Looks like there's some open comments that haven't been touched in a few weeks. I guess I'll leave it on the milestone because I don't really know. Anybody have any information on this? Dane's not here, right? No. Okay. I think we can leave that one. We were just talking about this. I guess we have a path forward, so let me leave that where it is. Async agent pools.
I think I just have to rebase that one.
Okay. So this can probably make it for the next milestone. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Too many API requests when using AKS and autoscaler. Oh yeah, and then there was this PR he had. Sorry about all this scrolling here. Needs rebase. But I think he's on it, so let's leave that where it is. Multiple VMSS cluster scaling problem. I know Jack was working on fixes for this, and we've talked about it a few times. I don't really know what the status is.
If I may, I think this is
Yeah.
actually fixed from, so this was the same, this is basically a duplicate issue from the other one that we were looking at that Zane opened with the provider ID issue. So I think that one we've already fixed and merged and backported. But I think I'll leave it up to Jack to verify, but it should be good. Yeah, this one.
This lowercase, yeah. 2536. What? Not 2356. 2536. There we go. Experimental retry join out of reference templates. Looks like this is in progress. I got pushed a few days ago, so let's follow up on this. But should be able to land for the milestone, hopefully. And use Helm. Oh yeah, okay. So this is
Yeah, that's my
add-on.
monster baby. This one's still in progress. I ran, there's this kernel bug that is blocking me right now. That is making the self-hosted test fail. It's a known bug that is supposed to be fixed in the latest kernel. So I'm trying to figure out why. I'm still seeing this in the image, if it's because we're using an older kernel or what it is.
Okay.
But otherwise, I would love some reviews on this because it's a pretty big PR. So it's ready for review. Just need to figure out this one test that's failing.
Cool. I'll try and take a look at it. All right, that's everything we had on the milestone. Can people think of issues or PRs that should be on the milestone? Anything we're planning to fix the next week or two that I'm not going to go through all the issues, but if you know of something or if you find something later today that really ought to be on the milestone, you can go ahead and assign it or ask one of us to put it on the milestone. Let me know. But right now it doesn't looks pretty doable. And so obviously if you're assigned to one of these or you have any insight into one of these, try and give it some attention in the next week or two so we can make our release deadline. Anything else about milestones or the release? All right, well, that's all we had listed on the agenda, but does anybody have anything random they want to bring up at this point? Or non-random? Or pseudo-random? All right. Okay, I guess that's it for this week. We'll see everybody here at this point, same time next week, which will be what, the 25th. So we'll see you then, and hopefully the new meeting schedule works out. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.